Today on the WEInvested podcast, we have Martin Saenz, and he is an author as well as a co-founder and managing partner of Bequest Funds. Arthur, how are you? I'm sorry, Martin, how are you doing today?
Good, Wesley. How are you?
I'm
Thanks for
doing
having me
great.
on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's just jump right into it. Before we started recording, uh, I was letting you know that I'm very excited for this episode and interested in learning about, what it is that you do. So if you don't mind explaining what is Bequest Funds.
Sure. So Bequest Funds is a 506c Reg D income fund. It's set up as a $50 million fund whereby investors place one simple investment into our fund and they receive passive income for the rest of their life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what is your definition of a fund?
Sure. So it's a structure that normally is registered with the SEC, so it fulfills all types of compliance and regulatory requirements. And what it is it's a vehicle by which an operator is able to purchase various investments using investor dollars.
For sure, for sure. So it sounds like you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about how your fund is structured?
Sure. So it's set up as an income fund, which means that there's a few options by which an investor can choose. The minimum investment is $50,000, and if they place, let's say, $100,000, we have a 9% annual preferred option that pays investors on a monthly basis. So for $100,000 investment, someone would receive $9,000 annually, or actually paid monthly though, for the rest of their life because it's set up as an evergreen fund. So there's no expiration to it.
For sure. And when you say evergreen, in my mind, that sounds like something that's basically recession proof. So, what is your definition of evergreen?
No expiration. So a lot of funds that are set up have a termination period in 5, 7 years, and then they term out, and investors receive all their money back. And the fund operators will liquidate all the assets and then they'll keep whatever's profits left over. We set this up as a legacy play whereby we can pass it down to our children as well as our investors passing it down to their children. So that legacy play to this was very important to us.
For sure. So, how excited are investors to hear that, they can receive, uh, passive income 9% for life versus, putting that money in the stock market and your returns can fluctuate based on the state of the economy.
Yeah, so I mean that's a very interesting question. How I look at it is that the period that we're at right now is a period of inflation and potentially hyperinflation. And I think everyone can agree, right? Republicans, Democrats, I mean, something that everyone can agree on. Gas prices are going up, food prices are going up. It's been long in the works. And as a result, what comes out is a lot of like voodoo witch doctors and other people that have all these various remedies on how you need to combat inflation. But at the end of the day, the one thing that individuals and families need to focus on to combat inflation is more income that's coming to them on a monthly basis. People need more ongoing income that's consistent and reliable to go and pay the extra fees, or pay the rent hikes that are going on, and all the various other expenses. And these this inflation is just beginning. There is an abundance of supply of money that's being circulated around our economy right now, fighting for limited goods and services. And that's part of the reason that's causing this inflation or inflationary time. And so passive income, whether it's through Bequest, whether it's through some other means, should be the only focus that individuals have.
For sure. And I'm a, firm believer in cash flow. I feel like cash flow is like one of the most important things in the world of money. Kind of more important than profit. It's just making sure you can have that cash flow coming in each month, and it's even better when it's passive.
Yeah, because there's a lot of individuals that go into precious metals, they go into crypto, they go into other areas that are more short term in focus. So they're looking to double their money in 60 days or and make all these other plays. And that's great. And, good for you if you make that happen. However, precious metals are not going to pay the grocery bill every month or every week rather. They're not going to pay for the gas to fill up in your car. So what will do that is passive income that will help you, be a supplement to any kind of active income you have going on in your life.
For sure, for sure. So how did you get started in this space?
So I got started as an entrepreneur. I was fired from a corporate job in 2004, and so my wife and I just decided that we needed to really do for ourselves. We realized that corporate America, there's no institutional structure that's going to take care of you, right? You grow up. I was fortunate. I grew up in a good town, relatively low crime, but that environment didn't take care of me. I went to college, and the idea is you pay a lot of money and spend 4 years and you'll be taken care of after college. That didn't happen. And so then I got into corporate America, and I wasn't, no, so I realized like every institution is, institutions are not there to take care of you, even though they may market themselves as such. So my wife and I said, for better or worse, we need to go out and figure this thing out ourselves. And so we started a business in 2005.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, kind of doing my research, something interesting that I came across is note investing. So would you mind kind of elaborating a little bit more on what exactly note investing is?
Sure. So note investing occurs mainly in the secondary mortgage market. So if you picture an individual that wants to buy a home, and they go into the bank or visit a lender and they apply for a mortgage, and it goes through underwriting, it gets approved, and they sign a promissory note and a deed of trust or a mortgage. And from that point, they buy a home. Well, a portion of those mortgages that the originator originates will go into default at some point, and that originator will bundle those defaulted loans into tranches and sell them into the secondary mortgage market at 20, 30 cents on the dollar. And from that point, a hedge fund will buy them, and they will make contact with the homeowner and try to work out payment plans to help keep the homeowner in their homes through like loan modifications, reinstatements, and other kinds of creative workout strategies. So once that occurs and the borrower gets back on track and starts making their payments again, it becomes seasoned. So that's how I originated my mortgage note career in 2013, was just buying distressed mortgages that were behind 2, 3, 4 years, and making connections with the homeowner and creating loan modifications. And I've done that over 1,000 times personally, myself, talking to homeowners and everything else. So I kind of grew up. That's how I grew up in the space at that level. And from over the course of years, I managed to write a few books. I managed to increase my level of buy, and to the point where I have a full blown operation. I have I own a hedge fund still with the managing partner, Sean, And we also own Bequest Funds. We have a full team on board, and we're growing. And but that's how I got my start, was just kind of self-taught, learn by doing in the space.
That's awesome, and that's like a true entrepreneurial spirit. So what would you say are some of the benefits of note investing in your opinion?
Yes, so I have the good fortune of having a landlording background. So I still own a portfolio of properties, commercial and residential, and so I understand the landlording aspect of things. However, what I will say is that I will take a mortgage note that pays me every month, whereby I don't have to think about it or deal with a tenant, over a property any day of the week. And so what I've learned is that if done correctly, note investing is not only lucrative, but it is very strong, reliable passive income that can be had, through the accumulation of dozens of these notes, all the way up to hundreds of these notes that are just paying you every month. And that's essentially how Bequest got started, is just we snowballed this thing, and we have a healthy, seasoned portfolio of performing mortgages. And so we're bringing investors on to benefit from that.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you have, or you manage a few different businesses, and you still have your real estate portfolio. So what's the significance of having multiple streams of income for you?
Yeah, so I'm passionate about multiple streams of income. It's something I write about. I released Cashflow Dojo, Build Your Home on Multiple Streams of Income. I wrote that and published it last year. And so I'm not only passionate myself and make it a practice of building multiple streams of income, but I believe the world needs it. It's so many families are dying. They're struggling financially, and through financial struggles, all these other kinds of social issues occur because there's not enough money coming into families. And so I believe that if knowing this, knowing that I've achieved the formula, if you will, to building multiple streams of income, and it's a lot of hard work. So it's not like some waving a magic wand. I mean, there's many hours, and years put into this, but knowing what I know, if it can help, a few people better their situation financially, I believe, I've achieved a lot. And that's what I'm looking to do, is just kind of spread the little that I know now.
That's awesome. Um, so I think an interesting topic that you talk about is government contracts. So would you mind elaborating a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so when my wife and I started our company in 2005, it was a government contracting business whereby we sold museum exhibit products to the federal government. So we would design, fabricate, install museum exhibits for the Pentagon and various other facilities around the country on a prime level, so directly to the federal government. And the federal government is the largest buyer of goods and services in the world. So for anyone looking to sell to the federal government, I even wrote a book on it, Secrets to Winning Government Contracts. And it's a very it's a tough business to get into. There's a lot of bureaucracy in terms of how you deal with with government procurement bodies, and how you get paid and everything else. But when you learn it, it can be, very good stable income. But I think what I would say, Wesley, is at the end of the day, for anyone starting a side hustle, anybody venturing out to build additional streams of income, think big out of the gate. Think, don't think I'm going to start a little sign company and sell to the local high school. Think I'm going to start this business and sell to the federal government, or I'm going to start this note business and have a $50 million fund, at the end of the day, at the end of the rainbow, this is how it's going to look. So just kind of start with the end in mind, begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, and then you'll do much better. Because even if you fail halfway through, you're going to be so much further than if you just started small and stayed small.
No, that's definitely a great piece of advice, um, and a very important piece of advice too. I feel like you'll save people a lot of uh, heartache and time. Not wasting time thinking small and just going for the gusto like from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. And you need people. You need people around you. There's I know it's very popular, the notion of solopreneurs, and work out of your bedroom and keep the cost down, and start a website, and but successful businesses, if you're really serious and committed to building streams of income for yourself, you need strategic partners around you. You need employees. You need 1099s. You need to build a team under you, even if some of those team members are outsourced, and really just think like the big boys and girls would think.
For sure, for sure. So you've written several books um, on investing in different financial topics. So how did you get your start as an author, and what was the vision or the idea behind that?
Yeah, so I was at church actually, and and so the thought just came to me. I felt like it was just more like spiritual calling, and I just felt like the presence saying, a presence saying to me that go and share what you know with others. And it was just something as simple as that. And so from that point, I just started writing a book. Note Investing Made Easier was the first book, and it still sells a lot on Amazon in the category of note investing. And and from that, I just it published, and people just started reaching out to me, and I just thought it was the greatest thing that people were being helped and benefited in some way with what I knew. And so it just really changed my course in life to being more of service to others. And
For
I've been a
sure.
better person as a result.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, yeah, and with this next question, you touched on it earlier, but you talked about the importance of having the right people around you, and thinking and playing like you're in the big leagues. So, how did you build your team?
You have to first prune the bushes. Jim Rome talks about that, and you have to weed out people that are negative, or holding you back in some way, and just keeping you in mediocrity. You have to prune the bushes, and you have to remove yourself from those individuals, because if you really feel compelled to advance yourself, to just build a better world for yourself financially, for you and your family, then you owe it to you and your family to spend every waking hour in a productive manner that's advancing you towards your goal. And so there's a lot of individuals, they say, well, let me take on additional XYZ. But if you're being weighed down by ABC, then you're never going to really go to you're not going to make the strides you need to make with XYZ. So whenever you go and make this decision, first make the commitment. That's the first thing, right? And then second, it's like, what do I need to remove in my life so that I can make room for these new for these new aspirations that I have, and then build a time schedule for yourself. That I'm always a stickler for that. If you're truly serious, you should have a time schedule, just like you do for work, right? If you have a 9 to 5, your boss wants you there at 9, right? Hour lunch, you leave at 5. Well, he or she has you on a schedule. Why is that? It's because they need to be able to measure how squeezing the juice from you. So if you're serious, you need to be like a boss and you need to build a schedule for yourself and carry this and conduct this discipline to go and work within that time schedule.
For sure, for sure. And that's definitely some great advice. Um so you've been an entrepreneur and running businesses for over a decade now. So what would you say are some of the most memorable or important business lessons that you've learned throughout your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, so I remember I've made payroll the day of a number of times early on, and I'll just remember the time where payroll was due on Friday, and I didn't have the money in my bank account, and so I went to go to the mailbox, and then there was a check in there that covered payroll, and I cried, and I just remember it was very very sad for me, and so not having money to pay people and having conversations with vendors and people you needed to maintain relationships with was very difficult. But what I learned through it all is that you need to have the tough conversations, especially with yourself. Like, how are you weak? So you know yourself, and you say, look, I'm half stepping here. I'm not putting my best foot forward. And then how will this change? So first having that conversation with yourself, but everything I remember is always been tied to how something was so difficult. Those are the memories I have.
No, and that's definitely a great piece of advice. And I feel like it's something that can be like taking a look at yourself and evaluating your strengths and weaknesses is something that has to be done intentionally, especially when you have a goal in mind. You can be so focused on like just doing whatever it takes to reach that goal, but then stopping and taking the time to analyze yourself and to see how you could be better at what it is that you're doing. That's definitely something that you have to be intentional about.
Yeah, intentional is a great word.
For sure. So what would you say is one of your favorite things about being an entrepreneur?
Freedom of time, and so that's a double-edged sword, right? So if you don't have the discipline in place, entrepreneurism will crush you because you're going to use your freedom for all the wrong reasons, and you would have been better off having the W-2. And so if you can incorporate discipline in with freedom of time, I mean, it's extremely rewarding. I can come and go as I please. I just spent, 2 hours with my youngest son today in the middle of the day. I mean, no one would ever tell me I can't do that. And I don't have to report to anyone, and I control my own destiny financially. And so that's very important. People, if I could be preachy for 2 seconds, I mean, people really need to take control of their finances and not let financial planners and bankers and all of these individuals that are just going to push their agenda on you. You need to educate yourself and manage your own finances. That's really key for entrepreneurs.
For sure, I agree 1000%. So, what would you say is the single most important reason for your success?
I would say commitment. I just commitment. I have discipline. If just making the right decisions. I plan every day out, and I work towards achieving what I have planned out. I write my goals down every day. I write down what my targets are. I'm very structured as an individual, but I just say it's just because I'm committed and I care.
For sure, for sure. So, Who would you say that you look up to for inspiration or use as inspiration, and why?
Yeah, so I'm a real fan of Grant Cardone. I like I like how passionate he comes across, and I'm not 100% on everything he says, but I think his message is good, that one needs to look at their job, or making a living, or building their financial freedom as an obligation, as a moral obligation. And so I believe that message.
For sure. And I don't think Grant Cardone and and a few of his properties are that far away from you, right? Not too far.
Yeah, so yeah, he's in Miami, I'm in Sarasota. I'm only a few hours from where he's at. And yeah, absolutely.
For sure, for sure. So how would you like for people to remember you and your companies?
I would say, remember it through, if I helped with this vehicle of Bequest Funds, where individuals were able to invest and have something to pass down to their children. So we have individuals in their late 80s that invest with us, and they're not thinking 20 years out. I mean, they're thinking, I'm passing this to my children. So, or my grandchildren, right? So my grandchildren can have this money coming in every month to buy school supplies, or to pay grocery bills, or whatever. So if I can just leave that chain of passive income, beyond my time, that would be rewarding.
For sure, for sure. So what would you say the future of Bequest Funds looks like to you?
Yeah, so we're raising capital now, and we'll close out at 50 million. And so managing the fund, I mean, we'll probably open up a second fund, and just to grow this. We're very compassionate with the borrowers that we service. We treat them as like customers. We treat them like gold. And so, it's a different business model than kind of that cold mortgage company. You get the call center and nobody knows your name. Here we know who the borrowers are by name, and we talk to them, and everything else. So just to maintain that goodwill, as well as keeping, this as a passive income vehicle for our investors. That would be good.
That's awesome. Martin, I appreciate you so much. But before we go, at the end of every podcast, we like to play a rapid fire question game, 3 questions long. So if you don't mind playing, I'll go ahead and get started.
Yes.
All right, question number one. Where's your favorite place to travel?
Destin, Florida.
Destin, Florida. Why?
Because it's a quiet, it's for the most of the year, it's a quiet part of Florida. It's the water is just absolutely beautiful. It's emerald green, and it's just really peaceful and relaxing, and I like to go out fishing there.
Nice. So question number two. What song explains your life the most?
um, my investment strategy, I would say, is all about investing in assets that I can control and that cash flow for me. So cash flow and passive income is my life, because it's my duty to my family and my employees and everyone I serve.
For sure. For sure. And final question. What's an amazing thing that you did that no one was around to see?
We I'm you know 2 days ago, we purchased an astronomical amount of mortgage debt. It's well into the tens of millions, and so that's not on the Bequest side. That's on other side of the business. So it's just not something we would ever tell anyone about. But since you asked, it was our biggest takedown.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Martin, thank you so much for your time. I've definitely learned a lot throughout this interview, and I appreciate you for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Wesley.
Yes, sir.